let me talk to you about my distance setup, and it's an area that I'm very particular with. As you can imagine, you're looking at trying to reach that target, fish that extra distance out. There's a lot of people that can cast a long way, but it's not just about that. It's about maintaining that distance, keeping accuracy, hitting your clip, building up a table of food, a zone, a feeding zone, giving those fish a reason to home in the area where you're fishing. And in the long run, over a period of time, you will definitely catch more fish on certain venues where that principle works. So today I'm at Worsborough, and this is a typical example of what I'm explaining. Fishing to an accurate area, building up a bed, will definitely catch you those fish and home those fish in quicker if you're accurate. So let me quickly talk to you about what my setup is. So I use the Aero X7 13-foot 100 gram. It's just an awesome rod. It's really responsive. It aids at accuracy, that distance, and especially on really wild waters like where we are today. The wind, the conditions can completely change at a split second. You need that tool to enable you to maintain that accuracy and distance, and this is exactly what this does, this rod. So I'm using it with a 3-ounce tip. Nice powerful tip, but it's just got an absolutely beautiful playing action for skimmers and carp, which is what we target on this kind of venue. Again, could be catching skimmers, next chucking could be catching a 15-20 pound carp, and this is the ideal rod for that situation. More importantly though, and this is what I want to talk about, is the reel. Now, again, I'm using the Ultegra XTC 5500. It's a CI4 reel. It's ultra light, balances perfectly with a long rod like this 13-foot rod. That helps me compress the rod easy. I can feel everything that's going on through that casting motion. But let me talk to you about the line lay. Now, this is an area, and I've had a lot of questions asked me recently about how far do you spool the line up. Well, to me, I want to get my line as high up as possible, but not too high. It's about getting that balance right. If it's too low, then you cause too much resistance as the line is coming off the spool, and that makes fishing at distance a little bit harder. Yet at the other side, if you over spool it, you end up with the line coming off too quick, and you end up with birds' nests and frap ups. So it's about getting that balance right. Now, I use X-Age, Shimano X-Age, which is, I'd say without doubt, the best casting line I've ever used. It's really soft, it's really supple, and what I love about it, it comes off the spool so smoothly. I'm convinced it makes that extra distance. It helps you hit that extra distance, and especially like what I've said, on windy conditions, it's just easier to fish at range with a really nice soft supple line, and that is exactly what that is. It's absolutely awesome. So I use it in the 018 or 020 depending on the wind and the size of the fish. If it's a crosswind, I'll always opt for 018, but if it's a calm wind or the wind off and back, I'll opt for 020. 10-pound Technium shock leader, and generally my shock leader line is from the roller bearing up the rod, back down the rod to the base, and that's it. So it's basically 2 rod lengths of shock leader line. Really strong, robust line. I try not to go too strong on a shock leader. 10-pound I think is the optimum weight and the optimum strength. I think when you go to 12-pound or even a bit heavier, it causes a bit too much drag as the feeder is going through that air, and it obviously hinders the distance that you're fishing. But I try to stick to 10-pound if I can. If it's really windy and I'm really having to push that feeder out, then yeah, I'll swap to 12-pound. So, as I've said, the line lay is really important on the spool. And as you can see, if I just hold that up, you can see the level of the line just below that lip. So let me just quickly show you with some other spools that I've got rigged up here. You can see that level line lay just below that lip, and that is so important. You need that lip to control and keep the line straight as it comes off the spool. That is really going to aid your casting. Now, what I love about these reels is the line lay, as you can see, is so sublime, and that aids that minimises resistance, it aids the distance, it just makes fishing at range so much easier. So when you spool your line up, try and get the line just below that lip. The lip is quite big, and in a way it's sometimes better to underspool your line, especially when you're using braid. Braid is the line without a doubt that I'd rather underspool it. It comes off the spool quicker than monofilament. So by having a larger lip as opposed to quite a close lip of what I've got with mono, you'll find that the braid still comes off easier, but you won't get those wind knots, which is often common if you overspool your line with braid. So when you're spooling up a Shimano reel, with all the Shimano reels, especially the mini pit reels that we use for our long range fishing, try and get your line to that level so it's just below that lip, and it'll aid your casting, it'll aid your performance, just make fishing at range so much easier. So give it a go.